Welcome everyone. We're going to show you how we fixed all of our water woes in today's episode. First things first, we constantly had a problem with water freezing in our hoses. The other thing is that occasionally they figure out a way to knock this hose off of the automatic feeder. Now it's not impossible for them to do it currently. So essentially what would happen is they would somehow get this to where it would bust this end of the hose. And might happen here, might not, I don't know. However, that part isn't really important, because what is important, well, let's just skip to the install. We'll show you. Figure we check the fire real quick before we do anything else. It's going good. Temperature is 163, and we have it set to kick off at 165. So. Pretty handy piece of equipment. I really like the wood boilers. Effective way to heat structures in general, not just homes or a shop. Let's see if you can remember, but a couple of videos back, the skid steer had some warning light on and it wouldn't start when it was really cold when we parked it outside. So we're trying to reference when that light comes on. So it's 23 degrees in here. Obviously there's no wind chill inside the building, but I'm curious to see if it still gives me that light this time or not. Yep. Why does it have that light? Anybody can give me some insight on this right here, this exclamation point. And it only does it when it's really cold out. So apparently below freezing is when it does it. It's really driving me nuts. But whenever it does it, it won't let the engine crank. So I can turn the key as many times as I want, it won't crank. Why is it doing that? Alright, so the light's still on. We're going to turn the ignition off. We'll turn it back on again. Oh, still on. Look at that. We're in good shape. I'm willing to bet there's fuel, or sorry, water in that fuel, and it's freezing, and that solenoid can't do what it's supposed to, and the computer's recognizing that. That's what my bet is. Let's see. I would say that's it. We're gonna let that warm up real quick. All right, the monkeys are getting themselves a quick mid-morning snack, and then they're gonna come play in the snow pile I make for them. You can see we generally don't get a whole lot of snow. It's kind of rare. Last year when we got over a foot, that was very rare for us. It just doesn't happen that often here. Usually we get snow, you know, something like this, an inch or two, and typically it's gone that next day. So like if it snowed, for instance, this morning, it would warm up enough at some point throughout the day that it would be melted and it'd be gone. So it's exciting for the kids. I'm gonna go ahead and stack it up so they can play in it at least. Like I said, we don't get enough to really do much of anything other than sledding, so we're gonna stack it up so they can make tunnels and forts. All right, on to the real reason of today's video. We finally got tired of taking our hoses and going and thawing them out. So we bought these heated hoses. They're camcos. Oh, what did I do with it? There it is. All right. We didn't modify much. We just simply made the hose runs that come off of this valve shorter because we want it to be as short as possible so we can wrap heat tape around it from the hose. You know what's really handy about the shop not being insulated? I can, my wife and kids can bring milk and cookies, or milk and brownies or cookies out to me, and I don't have to worry about the milk spoiling from the heat in here. It's kind of handy. kind of the finalized installation for this end, except one little thing. This, I can feel the heat through it pretty good. So it does concern me a little bit. Not that like it's gonna catch fire or something like that. More along the lines of, you know, if I can feel the heat through it, is it retaining enough to keep the water thawed? Which I guess it probably is. It says it's good for -20, so we'll see. This in here is a little bit trickier just because the hydrant has its own heat tape, and I want to make sure that this hydrant doesn't freeze and bust because it's expensive to replace them. Since we leave it on all the time. There's lots of heat in there. Holy smokes, that thing's hot. It's good. It's so close. Grab a couple more pieces of insulation real quick. Morning, everyone. It's very, well, I guess, yeah, it's still technically morning. It's 3 in the morning. I just came out here to check on everybody real quick. Nothing looked off or anything like that. However, I did want to show this. So, hopefully you can see that pretty well on here. Shows what the temperatures are. You can see that this thing does lose some heat. And the actual surface temperature, get a little closer so I can hold it steadier. Around 40 or 50 degrees, depending on where you're at on the hose. So you can see from the install video that both of these tools should solve all of our problems. And so far to date, they have. Now, we've only been using them for about a week, but we consistently keep testing this device right here, the smart water valve. And we come out here and we check this just by touching it. And then let's say that I can't feel any heat from it, which I can barely feel any heat, but that's okay. Because right now it's actually like 38 degrees out. So I can understand why I don't feel a whole lot of heat from it, because the thermostat should be working on it and making it to where it's not wasting electricity. It should only be heating the water if we really need to. Now the unique thing to it was we expected to still have to come over here and break water in our actual water trough for them. Like I mentioned earlier, it is 38 degrees, so this isn't gonna need to be broken. However, the last 3 days, it has been in the single digits overnight and only in the teens for the high. It's been cold. We never had to break any of the ice in here. Hi, Joy. What are you doing? We never had to break any ice in here. My assumption is because the water that's setting in this, in the heated hose is warm enough that when it comes in here, it's raising the temperatures of the water that's in here. I guess the other thing I should mention is that these water lines, or the hoses before we had the heated ones, they didn't freeze until it was about 20 degrees outside. At 20 degrees outside, and then it got cold enough in the barn that it was at or below freezing. So, I mean, based on your climate would really depend on whether or not you need these. The other thing is, these are not as, so like in the, we'll say Canada, because it does get incredibly cold there. These are only good for -20 degrees Fahrenheit. I know that it gets much colder up there, but in south central Missouri, it just doesn't get that cold often. And we've kind of had an odd last 2 winters. It's been, not the whole winter, but a lot of it has been colder than normal. And before, we only had to maybe thaw the hoses out twice a year, like throughout the 3 months that they were in here. And we've already had, like the last 2 weeks, it was frozen every day. So that's why we finally broke down and said, you know what, we're just gonna transition to this. They've got thermostats, so we won't be wasting a whole lot of electricity. We'll just go ahead and do that. I hope this really answered any of your questions, if you're having similar problems that we did, if I didn't answer something that you'd like to know about, just put it in the comments down below in the video and I will answer them. Thanks for watching. Have a blessed week and we'll see you next time. Tell them bye, Joy. You got nothing to say?